guys, I want to give a big shout out to Keith Cartide. I think I said that right. Keith got in touch with me after the last video. He had a wheel and a hubcap that I needed for this thing, and he got it to me real quick, so now we have a matching set and a spare without a hubcap. And really appreciate it, Keith. Thank you for watching, and yeah, let's get going on this thing. What's going on there, guys? So, been tinkering with this. The base chassis structure had to change a little bit. I tried the aluma weld in the very beginning just by itself. It's not strong enough to hold really on its own. Really should have made this out of one piece and just pie cut, bent, pie cut and bent. Someone suggested that in the comments after the fact. I'd already had some of this filmed, sorry, so I thought I would at least try it. But I didn't get any more metal this weekend, so I just went ahead and rolled with what I got. Put a screw in it in each corner to help. I was going to do 2 screws, that way it can't shimmy, but with the aluma weld in there, it's staying square and it's not giving me any trouble. So the back, I've kind of, I mean, you saw we opened up the Kyosho Outlaw Rampage. It's like 170 bucks shipped, ready to run, everything included, and it's got decent electronics in it. It's LiPo capable. It's actually a nice little truck. Felt a little bad doing this, but it is what it is. We got to roll with this. So the rear, I think I'm really gonna cheap out here. It's so easy. This just fell into place. There's a screw here that holds the gearbox together. This is motor on axle. That's why I went with this, because there's really not any room here to run a drive shaft from up front. It'd have to be 2 or 3 pieces probably, and front motor, it would have been a whole lot of headache that probably wasn't really gonna work. So, got this motor on axle. It barely fits in there. I did some more trimming. I could reverse it, but I don't have anything in the back to mount the suspension off of. I wanted to just do the 4-link, something kind of like it had. And, I mean, there's nothing back here structurally sound. The trunk floor was already cut from our last attempt at this, and it didn't come out very cleanly. We're going to have to clean that up here eventually, but I think this is going to work. It's not going to give us side-to-side movement, but the Pro Air kit only airs up front and back only. It doesn't do side-to-side, so not really that big a deal. I keep both rear tires planted on the ground. So I used some RC 4-wheel drive M3 Heim Joints on our aluminum subframe here, and using this screw hole. I don't have any bolts long enough to go all the way through yet, but I got a spacer on this side so it clears the the gearbox housing on that. I've just got a Allen wrench shoved in there right now and a screw started on this side. So ideally I would like to get one long thing. I need some all thread or something to figure out, but there's lots of ways to do that. That's not a big issue. So I've centered it. The way these are, you want your tire just a little bit forward on this arch. Not sure if you can even see that. These arches taper to the back. It's how a lot of the 50s and 60s cars were, even some of the 80s. And up, it's pretty well centered in there, so it's a little bit further back. The way it pivots on here, it's not going to be like a 4-link. It's not going to stay, the gearbox isn't going to stay flat and move up and down at a slight angle. The whole thing is just going to tilt. I think it's going to work great, actually, because I've got room back here. We may have to play with some mounts for the Pro Air struts. We have these lower mounts here, but this, I got to take those upper arms off, but this makes it no 4-link. This is strictly a 2-link or a 1-link, if you will. And super simple. Just, you know, you can't beat the simple stuff. I learned a lot doing that Winnebago. We did a Tonka Winnebago, and I was overthinking everything, and it all of a sudden had a moment of clarity, and yeah, it just worked out fantastically. So I think this is going to work well for this. It can give us a whole lot of lift depending on struts and the weight and how it all works out. So yeah, that would be super easy. I'll have to figure out some way to mount this subframe here to the body. I haven't really gotten into that yet. I need to look in the floor and see if we could just bolt it here in a couple spots where the floor is really low in the rear floorboard. That would be pretty simple. If not, we have these 2 mounting points here. We could make some kind of mount off of it to actually attach this to the interior tray. And yeah, there are some screws down here. I'm not sure if you can see those. That's going to be I'm probably going to put a piece of aluminum across there and we'll mount our air struts to that. But it does need reinforced. I don't trust this plastic here. It's pretty old, pretty frail. So we want to reinforce that for sure. And ideally, I would like to tie that to our other piece here, but I don't know that it's really going to be necessary. I think some of this aluminum flat stock bolted across there with some type of upper shock mount should do the trick just fine. And especially if we angle them in, and I don't know, we haven't figured out all the geometry yet, so I think that's going to work. I just have the tires on here and just screwed on. They're not really spinning, so we'll still have to figure out some kind of hex adapter to make for that, but it does fit perfect, the dimensions and everything. These wheels have a little bit of a hub inside that comes back to the outside edge of the tire, and I know a lot of folks are hating on these tires as they are plastic, but these are actually pretty solid, and they'll work for a while until we figure out something else. Offset on the wheels is going to be key when it comes time to doing something, and I know a lot of people suggested XO1 wheels or that new Arma really fast thingy that's larger, and we'll have to look into that. I haven't seen any of that stuff in person really, so I don't know size and offset and things like that, but yeah, we'll cross that bridge later. Right now, focus on the chassis. Once we get the chassis on, suspension functioning, then we'll worry about it running and driving. Then we'll worry about different wheels and tires. So I started stripping the front apart. This actually is a nice little truck. I feel bad cutting it up because it would probably be actually kind of fun to drive. It's probably a little slow. It came with like a little 1800 milliamp nickel metal battery. I was trying to take the shocks off, but I needed the shock tower. It was part of the structure for the upper control arm mounts. And looking at how that's going to fit up front, so let's get over here and take a look at that. So even with the stock shocks and the stock shock tower, we have, it fits all the way underneath the body. And if we compress this, it goes all the way down, the tire's touching. So I think this is going to work. All we've got to do is figure out a way to bolt or have a piece of aluminum off of here at the right height that we can bolt this to using the factory hardware even. And I think this top piece in here, I'm not sure if you can see that, this upper mount that mounted to the chassis, we can actually bolt that to the top of the body. And there, and I think it would be fine. It just needs a third point to reinforce it. And whatever we run from here, I will run all the way forward. And we do have some more factory chassis mount type places in there that we can reinforce this off of. Excuse me. So I think that may be the answer. That would tie the chassis to the body in the front and hold the suspension. The rear, we're still got to work on how we're going to tie it all together. But it's just really falling into place. It's kind of cool, kind of like the Winnebago. So I'm going to flip this whole thing over, try to keep it from falling apart. The chassis, the frame here we made, the box, does fit pretty snugly around the interior, so that's a good thing. It will hopefully stay in place when I flip it over and try to get a look of the stance and stuff and see how this front actually moves. Alright, so I thought this would actually hold the weight of the body. Those shocks on here are super soft, but I was hoping to do a cool picture with it looking like it was lifted in the front and down in the back, dragging a bumper. So let me find, here, let me use a jack stand. Alright, so that's kind of cool with the rear all the way down, the front up about where it'll be, maybe a little bit higher than it will be. Can't keep that in there straight. There we go. The rear, the angle of the body is perfectly parallel to the ground. Oh, we have to have some drag blocks for sure. So yeah, I think this is going to wrap this video up, guys. I've been tinkering with this for quite a few hours, and I'm making good progress, but I don't want to rush it. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself and forget something that I need to do. So let me take a look, show you real quick the front end again out of here, because the steering and stuff is going to work out pretty well as well. Alright, so the front suspension, it holds the steering arm and everything in place, and the servo can go right here. There should be room, because this is, again, top of the body, so we should be able to mount something there off of the mounts, maybe a simple piece of aluminum. Then we can just mount the factory servo. You see it aired out. It's not cambered too bad. Aired up, or our steering angle's off a little bit, but that's how it came out of the box. So we don't actually go all the way down, so we've got room underneath it to bolt a piece of aluminum or something to the factory locations. And this spins. Oh, we could actually turn that around and bolt directly up into the body, because that sits on the inside edge of the dash. So that'd be perfect. These shocks feel really good, but they're leaking like a sieve. There's oil all over that one. But yeah, I think this is gonna work out just right. I think we made the right choice on the donor vehicle. And yeah. The other thing, got these nice looking tires, 1.9s. Look like a regular old wheel. They're actually pretty solid. They're not too hard, not too soft. They're beadlocks, but they're plastic. But it's a nice looking tire wheel combo. Could use that on something. So yeah, and also the radio. Kyosho came with a decent looking little synchro radio. Came with a little charger and a little stick pack, so it's got enough adjustments on it. Thought I'd be able to make something work. But I'm gonna wrap it up here, guys. I appreciate y'all watching and following along, and definitely stay tuned for more of the Big Red Lowrider build. And I'll see you on the next video. Keep it scale.